storm with steady hands that are kind and understand. There is strength in this bond long after the rains are gone. All right. Huh? Yeah, let's see what this sounds like, and then can I do another one? Okay. Fantastic.
And hello, welcome to Visual Radio. My guest today is Jonathan R. Eller, becoming Ray Bradbury. Oh, actually, that guest is later this summer. Today is June 27th, and my guest is Peter Calo. The return of Peter Calo. You were on show 350.
Oh.
This is around 5:30. So he said I could have shaved today. I go to Dente's over in Davis Square.
To get a shave?
Where my grandfather used to take me when I was 5.
Tradition.
It's this amazing barber shop. I think it used to be a barber school, but now the family owns it. And they're great people, and it's just amazing the work they do. And I have a regular barber in Reading, so I have my hair done one place and shave another. But I like having a little 5 o'clock shadow for some shows and then change the image for another. So that's what I do.
Okay.
So those are great songs. Now, how many of those songs are on your new album, Peter Calo? Forthcoming album.
All the songs will be on the new album, which does not have a title yet, which we're still recording, except England, the instrumental. I'm not sure about putting that one on. I'm 50-50 on that one.
Bonus track.
Bonus track, perhaps.
Hidden track.
Hidden.
Play it backwards.
Play it backwards, and it's Ireland. Whoops.
Now, great facility here in Winchester.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us. Me.
Robert Gotham did a great job directing your.
Yes, he did. He's amazing.
They're all amazing. That's Joe LaRocca.
Amazing guys.
It's a great place, and
it is. It's a great facility.
Gilbert Gottfried sat right there.
Get
Affleck. Said Gilbert, you were on The View on Tuesday.
You know who I do a lot of work with is Michael McLuhan, who's the Geico man.
Oh.
Does it take, what is his line? What is his catch line?
It drives me batty. I turned him off last night.
Well, because it's on so much. But he's obviously, he's thankful, but he's the Geico man now.
Now, is it takeoff on Dragnet, or was it the guy who...
No, it's just, a serious, he's got the line,
It's not...
Can you save money, and it's a good catch, and then they can fill it in. It works. He's great, and
Peter Falk.
And the reason
Falk.
Peter Falk just passed away.
I know. It wasn't like a Peter Falk takeoff.
Well, the dipping of the eye, you mean? Perhaps. But the thing is, he's actually Michael McLuhan was in the Brothers McMullen.
Yep.
And that's where I first heard about him. And then I got a call one day to go in and do some recording with him. He's a great songwriter and singer. He's got a great voice. So he does that as well as his acting.
Well, I mean, you know, you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta multitask these days in this new millennium.
You do. I noticed that you're reading and interviewing me and drinking coffee. How do you do it, Joe?
I work on many levels. I am,
But you're pretty level-headed.
yeah. I live outside of the usual human experience.
Out of body? You live out of body?
That's Gore Vidal, Myra Breckenridge. I live outside of the usual human experience. I quote people, you see.
Yeah. Well, you've met a lot of people. You should quote somebody.
I haven't met Gore Vidal yet.
He'd be an interesting guy.
I'd love to have
He's fascinating.
Yeah, you know, Kalki was an interesting book.
I've never read that one.
Kalki, I think, was a precursor to the Jim Jones Kool-Aid spectacle. So Kalki was kind of like along those lines.
Was it a fiction or?
It was fiction.
But it was written before?
It was contemporaneous, so I'm not sure if it happened before or right at the time. But it's kind of weird. Maybe he saw it coming.
Wow.
These people are like sheep following people. But we talk music here. Those songs were really nice, really well done. The last one especially, I was talking to Robert in there and saying, boy, that's very John Lennon-ish.
You know, that song was, you know, I have a long history in the Boston area. I used to live up here, and dear friends of mine, Mark Nash and his wife Jill, they were getting married, I'm going to say 5 years ago, and I was asked to be the best man. And I knew that I couldn't come up with a great toast, but what happened is I wrote that song for them, and it's called Real True Love. And since writing it, I realized I didn't want to just perform it that one time at their wedding. You know, when I went up to do the toast, I sang the song, and then we toasted the couple. I changed a couple of the words because I think I had their name actually in the song, and I took their names out. Sorry, Mark and Jill, but they understand. And it's become kind of like one of the songs in my set. You know, I'd put it away, and one day I was listening to it or playing it, and went, oh, let me change a couple of words here, and I think we can make it work. You know.
Nice. So you have a studio at home called Tater.
Tater Music, yeah.
And at Tater, you have mics and everything, but it goes in a hard drive.
Yeah, it's computer-oriented studio, yeah.
So then you go elsewhere. You take the material.
Well, the songs that I'm working on for the CD, I've been working with Jerry Murata, who runs Dreamland up in Woodstock, New York, and we've been doing different projects. And he's just a fantastic drummer, and we really hooked up immediately, both as friends and in the studio and live. We do the Linda Eder gig together. That's where we met. But I used to work with his brother Ricky Murata for years with Carly Simon. So it's kind of funny. Now I've worked with the two
Murata
brothers that are both legendary drummers, fantastic and great guys.
I didn't know they both play drums.
Yeah, they're both, and it's funny because Ricky was kind of like the 70s, 80 guy, and then Jerry's kind of like the 80s, 90s, you know, Peter Gabriel. He did an album with Paul. He basically runs the studio, and he's got this big room. It's a church. They've taken over.
Todd Rundgren used back in the day, back in Woodstock.
I know that actually Jerry used to work with Todd, so it might have been.
Because Albert Grossman was in Woodstock when managing Joplin.
But there was a lot of places
up there.
Yeah, because I mean it's a real music town. I mean it's amazing how many great musicians live in Woodstock.
Which is why they did the festival there, right? Or is it because of the festival it's become a music town?
The festival was actually in Bethel.
Right.
But I don't think it had anything to do with musicians being up there. I think probably because the festival is up there, maybe it started attracting the hippie population and musicians and things like that, and artists, etc.
How far is Woodstock from New York City?
80 miles, maybe?
That's not too bad. It's like going to York Beach, Maine.
No. Yeah.
From
I'd rather
here,
go to
from
York Beach,
yeah.
Maine, though.
Huh?
I'd rather go to York Beach, Maine.
I love York Beach. There's a nice club there on the beach on Short Sands that plays a lot of, that has a lot of live music. So you should probably look at that sometime.
I will.
There's Long Sands at York Beach and then Short Sands.
Okay.
And Short Sands is in the center of town where they have the taffy machine. You know that Golden Kisses
Taffy
place?
Taffy?
Taffy, yeah. They
Oh,
make the taffy
saltwater taffy.
yeah, it's made right in the window.
That's a real New England thing.
Yeah, and right next door to it is the nightclub. So there's a nightclub there where live musicians
Cool.
like you.
All
But it's a
right.
great gig. I mean, you know, running the beach.
I will check it out for sure.
So, when do you think your album will be out?
I did it, didn't I? September, October.
Now, are you using this guitar on the album?
Yes, yes, I love this guitar. This guitar was made by a local builder.
There's no name on it, I noticed.
There's no name on it. It's a Tippin guitar, Tippin Bravado.
Does he put his name anywhere or autograph?
It's actually inside, but we can't get that. That'd be a close-up. We can't
so
get
he
that.
actually, what is the autograph?
It's a label.
Ah,
But it's a totally handmade instrument. It's a beautiful, beautiful guitar. And right now, my two main instruments, this and my electric, which is a Pickamoose, made by Paul Schwartz in New York City. That's also a handmade guitar. So I feel very fortunate to know the builders of my instruments.
sure.
You know, and they're very special instruments. They're great. They sound great.
Now, do they ever ask you to take instruments out on the road to, like, work them in or try something out?
No, no.
So this is a very specialized field.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes somebody will, you know, like Gibson will let me use a guitar if I need like a 12-string to go into the studio, or say, hey, I really need a Gibson acoustic for this track, or I need a, you know, especially they have a place in New York City, and you can go in there, and they're very nice about letting people use instruments, you know, if you're doing like an album or a track or something.
Oh, wow. Now, you know Klaus Voormann, because we were talking about the Beatles and Revolve. He did the Revolver album cover.
Yeah.
Even though he played with, you know, Lennon, of course.
We're not going to get a close-up of
No,
that, though.
no, because this is visual radio where we just get a close-up of me. Because I'm the Access TV legend.
I met Klaus Voormann, I think it was 2 years ago. You know, time.
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was way back when.
What they did is there was a German production team, a film company, and they decided, because you know Klaus is an icon in Germany. His story is, he's such a cool guy. He's like 76 years old. He's wonderful. He's an incredible artist. I mean, but he met the Beatles on I believe their first trip to Hamburg, and he was like the first guy to start hanging and recognize
the genius.
That there was something incredible about them, and he became good friends with them. He lived with George and Ringo in like '64 in London, and he joined Manfred Mann and became a bass player, and he's the bass player on "You're So Vain." That
he is?
Yeah, and he's also the bass player on Leon Russell tracks, all the John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr stuff. Obviously not Paul McCartney, because he's bass player, but they decided to do a documentary about him as the artist and the musician, and it's called "All You Need Is Klaus," and I really recommend it. And I was fortunate enough to meet him, and we sat around and did some playing, and they filmed it. And actually, some of our jams were later used as underscoring to the documentary, and it was like, wow, that's really cool. So. You know, we were jamming on some, like Imagine, and then it segued into a scene about John Lennon talking about Imagine, or Klaus talking about the first time he heard the tune Imagine. So it's a really cool documentary.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
So that was 2 years ago, and you worked on the Julie Taymor Beatles movie, and that was called Across the Universe.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly what I did was got together when the actors were working. The thing that I found fascinating is when she conceived the movie, it was basically getting in a room and like it was a play. I mean, really acting it out, not just getting on the set and shooting. It was like they really figured out, because there's a lot of dancing and physical stuff in that movie, if you really notice. And so that timing was actually worked out. And we helped kind of with the pacing of the songs, because to make the songs, because it's kind of like a musical, the movie. They're using the songs to forward the storyline. So she had to conceive of, like for instance, I Want to Hold Your Hand is done as a ballad, you know, and it's a girl singing the song to another girl off in the distance, and they wanted it to be a certain kind of feel. And also, all those kind of things are throughout the film, where they would change the feel of a song or end the song because the lyric would go off to something that didn't mean anything to the film or what have you. So it was a pretty interesting project. And now I'm working on a film, on a TV show that's gone to its second season, The Big C, which is on Showtime.
Don't know it.
It's on Showtime. It's an incredible, it's Laura Lindy, the actress,
Oh yeah,
is the star, and it's a satire. No, not a satire, like dark comedy, because the big C meaning cancer. She has cancer, and they've managed to make a comedy. And so I've been working with Marcello Zarvis, who's a composer, and fantastic music. He's amazing.
so you play the guitar.
I'll be playing the guitar and ukulele, a lot of ukulele.
What is it with the ukulele? Greg Hawkes is doing it. My friend Eddie White is playing at the Cantab with the ukulele. What is it?
Well, the thing with the ukulele is it has a particular voice. He doesn't use it like a ukulele. I barely strum. There's no jung, jung, ka, jung. It's all very very rhythmic, but it's the tone. It's not like a classical guitar, even though it has nylon strings on it. It's got a different tone, and if you play it way up high, and you have like the guitar and a ukulele, it's just a really cool sound. So he's done some very clever writing, and then he'll add horns, like light horns. It's not a big score. It's not like big music. It's very slightly quirky, you know.
To think of Greg Hawkes doing an album of Beatles songs with a ukulele.
You know, there's a guy already in New York who's been doing that, and what he does is once a month or once every couple of months, he'll come out with a new version. He just had Russ Vasquez. He just did, I can't remember the Beatles song, but he's been doing that, you know, and he's gone through the catalog, all the different musicians down in New York joining him as vocals, and then but they're doing like really different versions. It's really very cool. There's a website. I can't remember the website. We're getting off into
Google.
We're getting off into different territory
But
here
my
now.
point about Greg Hawkes is he's known as the keyboard player of the Cars, but he played saxophone for Martin Mull,
No kidding.
Fabulous Furniture before the Cars.
Wow.
You know,
So he's very musical and diverse, yeah.
he was our 7th guest. We just had him back before the Cars got back together.
He was your 7th guest?
Yeah.
You remember the order of all your guests?
Well, not all of them, not 550, but I know the first one was Marty Ballin.
Wow.
And then
He was your first guest?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I did a show in '79 in Somerville. I did a TV show for a year. And Barry Glovsky from Fusion is on my Facebook. He used to publish Lou Reed's poetry in Fusion magazine. So he's going to bring me some of Lou's poetry that I don't have. I got a bunch of them.
Wow.
But Barry's going to come back on the show. He was like one of my first guests in '79.
Wow.
So then I went off and did my rock and roll anthologies and playing in the clubs. And 16 years ago, I started the show.
I'm on one of your rock and roll anthologies.
Right, and I'm going to give you number 9 before you leave here because I had it transferred to CD. So I want to reissue them.
Don't reissue my song.
PCB.
Ooh.
Fine Line. It's great.
I can't believe you remember that. Ooh.
Hey, if I can remember
I shudder at the thought.
guests and the songs and my guests on my show, right? That's pretty good.
That is amazing. You're an amazing person.
I wanted to start this show, so I called up Marty Ballin. I said, hey, Marty, you're going to be in Boston. I want to have you on my show. He goes, I'll be in Harvard Square for 3 days. Track me down in the bookstores.
Oh, because he was doing a book? He
was going to, he buys books.
He likes to, yeah.
He was playing with the Starship. He called his father up. Where's Marty going to be? I'm not going to go looking in bookstores for my guests. And he did the first show. Bobby Hebb was number 3.
Bobby Hebb.
And,
Sonny.
yeah.
Sonny.
We lost Bobby last
Yeah,
August 3rd.
yeah.
It's almost been a year.
We lost Peter Falk a couple of days ago.
You know who else we lost was Fred Steiner. He wrote the Rocky and Bullwinkle theme,
Oh, boy.
Star Trek themes, but he wrote one of the greatest pieces of music in the history of television, the Perry Mason theme.
Oh. Da 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 da
Da, da, da.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
It is total
brilliant.
genius.
Well, all 3 you just mentioned are brilliant.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. But the Perry Mason theme is one of my favorite songs of all time, and it's so dramatic.
Well, that was the day when they wrote some really great, Peter Gunn and.
Yeah, it's classical stuff. Oh,
It was
Sloan
dramatic.
Secret
It was
Agent Man.
dramatic. They were real composers, weren't they?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
got to come back to that. And television should be the medium. So,
Well, but they've dropped the theme song because they want to get into the show quicker.
well, I've got my own theme song to this show.
You
My
do?
song Transporter that I did with Jimmy Miller back in the day, and I usually
Jimmy Miller.
and in fact I have to talk about Jimmy Miller. So Jimmy and I were in L.A.
I met Jimmy Miller at your house.
Oh wow!
What is that? That's got to
83.
Yeah, so
83,
that's how many years ago is that? That's just
It's almost 20 years ago.
no, it's more than 20 years.
So in 86 or 88, we went to L.A. twice, 86 and 88. So I said, let's go have lunch with Richard Perry, because he's friends with everyone. So Richard Perry cut You're So Vain, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he cut I'm So Excited, which I think is one of the greatest Pointer Sister songs. It's just such a great pop song.
He's in the Klaus documentary, by the way, because Klaus was his first pick for a while as bass player. He was like the guy.
Oh,
anyway, I didn't want to
Richard,
digress,
no, Richard
but-
Perry's just such a genius. So we had lunch with him, and I have a picture of Jimmy and Richard Perry. You know?
Oh, I would have loved to have been there, man.
Well, he comes like across the street, just ordinary person. They sit down, and they loved each other. They were friends. They hadn't seen
Jimmy
each
Miller
other.
made some of the classic English rock stuff that I love. Traffic. I love that.
Spooky Tooth.
Yeah, and of course the Stones.
And George Clinton, Funkadelic, early George Clinton he was working
Yeah,
on.
he was amazing. And his daughter is a well-known singer in New York.
Dear friend of mine.
Dina?
Yeah, she toured with Meatloaf. She was on stage when that album hit. But I saw her like 3 or 4 years ago.
Up here?
With Maxine Nightingale.
Uh-huh.
She does her backing vocals.
Maxine. You mean Maxine Brown?
No, Maxine Nightingale.
I don't know who that is.
Get right back to where
Oh,
we're
yeah,
starting
yeah.
from. And come on and lead me on. Do, 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 do. She has 2 hits. So they were doing some Springfield festival. I drove 2 hours out there and saw Dina. She's great.
Yeah.
Old
yeah.
dear friend.
New York person, yeah.
Yeah, well, Jimmy's daughter. And,
Yeah.
you know,
So Jimmy was an American, right? He
he
wasn't
was a Brooklyn British emigre.
Yeah, but he went to England to work.
He was working here with Larry Fallon, the late Larry Fallon. All these guys are dead.
How did he hook up with the Rolling Stones?
Well, that's just it. He was working with Larry Fallon in New York, and Chris Blackwell found him. And
That's
Chris
it.
Blackwell wanted to create record producers the way film directors were. You know, Alfred Hitchcock commanded such a name. So
he was the first guy that kind of got, you started paying attention to the name of the producer.
Well, they had 2 producers at Island Records. One was produced by Jimmy Miller. Hey, can we have the double shot, Robert, of the 2 of us? Thanks. We'd have produced by Guy Stevens, Mott the Hoople, and then produced by Jimmy Miller. And you'd see on the back of the Traffic album, Splashed, produced by Jimmy Miller. So they were doing a Traffic session, as Jimmy told me, and the Stones were doing Satanic Majesties. And as good as that record is, it wasn't happening. And they knew that they had, they weren't working with Andrew Loog Oldham anymore. They produced themselves, and they just didn't want to be rudderless. And Jimmy said, I got a phone call. It was Mick Jagger. I knew exactly what he wanted. But he was under contract to Island. So he made a deal with Chris Blackwell. Chris would manage him, and he'd leave Island and go to the Stones. So that's how that all worked out.
How many records did he do with the Stones? Because he did, didn't he do Beggar's Banquet?
Yes.
That's my favorite Stones record.
Yeah, he did Let It Bleed, Beggar's Banquet. The first records he did were Street Fighting Man and Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Well, Street Fighting Man is on Sympathy for the Devil, Beggar's Banquet.
Yeah. So that song and Jumpin' Jack Flash were the first 2 singles he did.
That's brilliant because Keith is playing that's acoustic guitar on that, going through an amp.
I
But
think
it's
what it
no,
is-
it's actually going through a tape deck.
Yeah, it was. He asked Jimmy. He goes, "How do I get this sound of the acoustic guitar going through the cassette deck?" And he goes, "We're just going to record into the cassette deck and record that on the tape." And so Jimmy did it for him.
Yeah, because apparently Keith loved the sound of this particular tape deck, and when they went out of business, he was like, he couldn't get that sound. That was actually in the book that he.
Now, was that the two songs, Jumpin' Jack Flash and Street Fighting Man, or just Street Fighting Man?
Street Fighting Man, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Because I read
Could
somewhere
be,
that he
could be
also
acoustic
did
as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing, huh?
It is amazing. A lot of power. Because he said some things, Keith Richards, that I agree with, that acoustic guitar can really drive a band. You know, it's amazing.
Sure.
When you have the right, you know, person playing it, you can really drive an electric band, a rock band with an acoustic guitar.
Here's a story on Honky Tonk Woman that we'll get back to you. Jimmy said they were cutting it. The second verse, the tape machine ate it. So I think it was Glyn Johns on engineering. They went to lunch. Glyn Johns looped the tape. Jimmy came back in and put maracas over the second verse. So it's the actual first verse being looped for the second verse.
So it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah. No, that was Jumpin' Jack Flash. It's Jumpin' Jack Flash. So when you hear it, yeah, you know, the second verse is the same. It's the first.
Wow.
But they use Jimmy's playing the maracas to make it sound a little different. But it's the exact same music.
But he muted. So wow. How did he copy it? He just on another.
They just copied it onto a second gen tape.
And then he
spliced. Then they probably
spliced
taped it.
Yeah. Wow.
And then they made a new master because.
And
the
now
tape
that's
machine.
just done all the time. You know, copy paste, copy paste.
But it's you know we've.
But in those days, you know, getting it all exact and the master and the 2-inch reel were like, whoa, God, you know.
We've gotten
didn't
away
mess with
from
that.
and the kids today don't understand. They don't understand the making of a record.
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that because the last record we were making, I finally got, you know, because I've done a lot of work with Carly Simon, and she's more old school, coming from the day of the 2-inch reel, and that a take was very special.
Yes.
Now, and so we were making a digital recording, and her son, and it was like the takes were all digital, and she was like, well, where's that take? You know, she said, well, we'll find it. You know, it's here somewhere. You know, it's all changed.
It is. You're on Visual Radio, you get some gifts. This is Marty Ballin's new single, Versace. About Versace, you know, Gianni Versace. It's great.
Thank you.
This is Buzzy Linhart's studio CD.
Buzzy.
Buzzy.
How's Buzzy doing?
Buzzy's.
Do you still keep in touch with him?
I keep in touch with him, but this is funny, everyone. You're going to
how's
laugh at
his
the
health?
story. His health is up and down. But we were just talking on the phone, and you know, he does the show with me sometimes.
By phone?
Yeah, but then one of the preacher friends of his down the street from him said that the world was going to end a couple of months ago.
Oh, is that what, the guy in May 21st?
Yeah, there was
He lives
another
down the
one.
street from him?
No, there was another one.
Oh, there was another
I
one.
picked up on it, and Buzzy was totally into him, and I wouldn't listen to him, and he's like, I think he's like too ashamed to talk to me right now because the world didn't end.
It could have.
I mean, but our final conversation was like, you know, it's going to end 2 days left, so, you know, I don't know if he's just like winding me up or what. This is something Jimmy Miller did with me. There's some instrumentals from my third album. So I think you'd find that interesting.
Wow.
Some rare Jimmy Miller.
Wow.
So just
Thank you.
You come on Visual
Thank
Radio,
you.
you get some goodies, you know?
Thank you, Joe.
So do you have any names?
I wish I had a gift to give to you.
You did. You played on my
I gave
song,
you my
show.
songs.
That's right. I just gave you my songs.
There
so
you
there,
go.
we traded. But we traded in a different way today. I traded you digitally, you traded me via television.
In the air.
So you're going to have any name personalities, like the people you play with in the pit? Will they be on the CD, your album?
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of that we'll see what happens. You know, I'm gonna keep the album pretty simple, though. I don't think I want to get crazy. We recorded the basics for 8 tunes. I still have maybe another 4 tunes I'd like to record, and there'll be varying degrees of band involvement. You know, and so we'll see what we've got. I think it's going to be a great record. And it's going to be all original music, and it's I'm very excited about it coming out.
So you're not. It's Rob Mossberger.
Rob Morsberger is going to play keyboards and you know, accordion, of course, and Jerry's.
See, it's visual radio. I do a few visuals. Peter's new CD.
Yeah, we wish. We wish it was that simple. And then, like I said, Jerry Murata and Peter Donovan's played the upright on it, and we'll see what else happens.
You don't want it that simple, Peter, because I appreciate you because you go back to the old school like I do. You know, the thing I like to do best in life is produce records. That's what I do, I think, the best.
Yeah.
Making a record.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want to, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see.
You know what I mean? You know, I like to be a craftsman in there and set the sounds where I want them and be real creative. And the music coming out today, people aren't doing it. It's just instant karma. John Lennon wanted to roll out of bed and put a song out to the world. Now everyone does. He was almost predicting it, huh?
Yeah.
You know, we rolled out of bed, wrote instant
Well,
karma.
there's a fine, I know, but yeah, well, that's a great song. I mean, you know,
But you know,
if everybody could write instant commas, and you know,
But you know what?
that wouldn't be a bad thing.
His thought process was to roll out of bed.
He wanted to see if he could get it out, what, in a week or something like that? Or?
He wanted it out in a day.
Well, he wanted it out in a day, but that was impossible because you got to actually, in those days, press it. You could do that. I mean, that's what people like. They like recording informally and posting it. You know, why not? It's great.
Well, with YouTube now, I put some of my songs up on YouTube for the fun of it. We put your clip up. It's got over almost 500 hits.
Yeah.
That's from the Wakefield station. You were at my studio in Wakefield.
Yeah.
That was show number 350.
Great.
So, you know, you come back almost
Every 50 shows.
every 350 shows you come back, because now we're at about 530. So, you know.
Wow. You're doing a lot.
We do a show every Friday night here. Any other movies in the offing for you?
What am I doing?
You did Flawless.
Oh yeah.
That must have been a lot of
any
fun.
other movies? I see what you're saying. Yeah, Flawless soundtrack was amazing. No, I'm doing the Big C. That's my TV thing, and I've done some documentaries. Well, you know what I did, which is of local interest. There's a documentary about Louis Tiant called The Lost Son of Havana, where he goes and visits Havana after 50 years.
Wow.
An incredible documentary, and Robert Miller did the music, and I played guitar on it, and it's a lot of guitar music. So it's really, and it's a great story about Louis Tiant, who was, of course, the legendary Red Sox pitcher, and talks about his story and his trip to Havana after 50 years.
So what's that for?
It was a documentary that the filmmaker, and his name escapes me right now, but he put it together, and it was at the Tribeca Film Festival 2 years ago. And it's, I think well, of course we don't know when this is going to be shown, but it shows in the Boston area periodically, and I know that it's June now and it's showing.
So what did you play on it?
Guitars, the electric, the quattro, some some Cuban style music, and it's a lot of guitar on it. So it was a fun soundtrack for me to do.
Is there a soundtrack CD out?
No, there isn't.
That's too bad.
It is too bad because the music that Robert wrote is terrific.
What's the name of it again?
The Lost Son of Havana.
Okay, I've got to get that.
You do. It's really worth watching.
Now we got to hear that Peter.
And you got to get the All You Need Is Close.
Yes. That's
and watch
one.
Klaus and I jamming on camera.
Oh yeah, that's boy. I got to tell you, Steve Cataldo was in studio with me a couple of months ago.
Who?
Steve Cataldo of the Nervous Eaters.
Who?
So anyways, you go back with Steve and
Yeah.
and Billy Lucidian.
Lucidian. Is it Lucidian or Lucidian?
Either or works. I've known those guys for 40 years, but Lucidian is still with Willie Alexander. Willie Alexander just played with Preacher Jack, so those cats are still in the clubs.
They're all great players.
You know?
There's a lot of great musicians in Boston. I haven't lived in Boston in 15 years.
And today's June 27th, 2011. The show's just coming to a close in a couple of minutes. You'll be at Passim tomorrow. You're going to come back and do other clubs around here?
Well, when the record comes out, I will definitely be back. And I'm coming to do a benefit up in October 15th in New Hampshire. I'm doing a benefit for a cause that will be posted on my website.
Mary Gatchell?
No, it's actually Lisa Lipkin, who's a New York artist who has a CD that I played on, and I can't remember the name of her CD. A lot of stuff, and I can't even remember the name of the benefit. But you can always go to my website and find out this stuff.
PeterCalo.com.
Yeah, but I'll probably be back doing some gigs to promote the CD, of course.
And one other question, April Martin, where did you record April?
At my house.
So that was done at your house?
Yeah, and we did the drums at Rob Morseberger's, who lives down the street from me.
Oh.
And then we came and we did everything, and I mixed that record.
It's a great record. I just really like it.
She writes great songs. She really does. Yeah.
She's a fascinating woman.
She is fascinating.
She's a book author, and she's got the album with you.
And she has a practice. She's a psychiatrist, a therapist.
Therapist.
Yeah.
We'll go out on this note. Did you watch Law and Order Criminal Intent last night? It's the last show of the series.
No.
So Gorin and Eames, go off into the sunset. But they have a shrink with them, Paula Geisen, and it's kind of like Dr. Melfi and Tony Soprano. It was very odd how they did that. They did it intentionally. So the last few episodes, they had this, we talk about April being a therapist. They had this weird thing going on that kind of mirrored The Sopranos. I find it interesting, but it's culture that you'll find on YouTube, people, and you'll probably see Peter's performance today on YouTube. That would make sense, right?
Good.
Thank you for being on Visual Radio again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Winchester.
I'd ask you to autograph your book, but you haven't written your book yet. Robert Gotham's our director today. Joe LaRocca's our producer. WinCam, we got another minute, so we'll just say, hey, we're going to go out singing You're So Vain together. It's my party. Dobie Gray, Drift Away. We'll drift away. The show will...
What a great singer.
Dobie Gray, the In Crowd. Peter Calo, you're a legend. Great to have you back here in the Boston area where you belong.
Joe, always a pleasure. Thank you for all your hard work bringing artists on your program. Thank you.
What we have fun. It's fun to see you, man.
It's great. Thank you, sir.
And...